Hey, what's up, guys? Chad Hermansen here with Mental Edge Training Coach. Today, I have a guest that really doesn't get any bigger than this. Hall of Famer Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux is a dear friend of mine. We all know who Greg Maddux is. He doesn't even really need any introduction. Could be possibly the best pitcher that has walked planet Earth. So we're going to dive into how he approached the mental game, hopefully get some stories out of him, maybe play a true or false game, because I've heard a lot of rumors of some of the things that he's done over the course of his playing career. So enjoy this conversation with Greg Maddux. Hey, Greg, what's going on, man? How we doing?
Good, doing great. How's it going?
I'm doing well. We're both here in Las Vegas. You had mentioned earlier that you've been in California, so you skipped the Vegas heat.
Yeah, we skipped the heat and we decided to quarantine in a little bit better weather and, spent about 3 months out there and got out of the 100-degree heat here. And, luckily the golf courses were open. So, golf in the morning and come home and quarantine, watch Netflix, cook at home and enjoy the ocean.
Nice. What type of, what's your Netflix shows? What have you been watching?
We watch them all. Yellowstone, I think, is up there, one of the tops that we watched. We just finished Umbrella Academy. That was weird, different.
That was weird.
I liked it though, but it was good. Hard to predict. A lot of what's going to happen next. You're never right. I mean, it was pretty good. We're doing the internet one right now. I forget the name of it, but the one where the internet kind of affects how you think and live your life.
The social dilemma.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, we started that one this morning and we got through about the first 20 minutes and then the doorbell started ringing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, very cool.
That one's on top right now.
Okay, yeah, Yellowstone's my wife and that's our favorite show. We've been crushing that.
Really good. And then did the rewatches. I mean, when it was, really quarantining, we rewatched like Game of Thrones again and Dexter and so that was pretty good. Yeah.
Nice.
The old classics.
That's sweet. So you and I, we've known each other. The first time I actually met you, obviously you were already in the big league. So my first time I met you was in 1995, was the year that I got drafted. You actually were represented by Scott Boras and Boras Court, and you showed up at my house with Scott Boras. We're looking to court services, right, to get me to come on board with Scott. Do you even remember that? That's a long time ago.
I'm trying to remember. I know I did it for a couple of guys, and I do vaguely remember.
Yeah, it's all a blip on the screen, but that was obviously pretty cool. I was 17 years old. Agents were trying to, when you're around a first round pick, every agent's trying to talk to you.
Yeah.
Coming back and forth all over the place. Like, hey, that was somewhat of it's a huge separator. Like, hey, have Greg Maddux come and show up at your house. So you kind of just shared with how great Scott is and the organization and everything. And it certainly came down to Scott and another advisor who I actually went with another person. I don't know why. I felt more comfortable with the other guy. I kind of feel like to this day that might have been a mistake. But that was kind of where we first met. And even it kind of goes even farther back to we had the same high school coach, Coach Fairley. Yeah. So I'd love for you to go back into the late 80s, maybe is it more like mid 80s? What was Coach Fairless like for you?
Yeah.
In high school?
83, 84 was when I played for him. So, he was a hard ass. He was hard on us and different brand of coaching, total old school, a lot of yelling, a lot of name calling, a lot of intimidation. It's from the school that players will respond better if they're intimidated. And I think that's how he coached. I had a few coaches like that coming up. And on my way out, I had no coaches like that. Coaching really changed a lot since then. But I didn't realize how good a coach he was until I signed. I was in high school and I was, went to Valley High in Vegas and, what do you know? You're 16, 17, 18 years old. You don't really know anything. And, you like baseball, you like playing, and then you sign and all of a sudden I knew what a bunt play was. I knew how to cover first. I knew how to run the bases. I knew all the fundamentals. And then it took me to be around other guys, especially other parts of the country, and realize just how good a coach Roger was. I mean, he fundamentally, he really set the table for us. And, he gave us some mental toughness, I think. Didn't realize it at the time, just thought he took it way too serious. It's baseball. But, developed a little mental toughness in there as well. And, very lucky to have him at a young point in my career to kind of jumpstart it.
Absolutely. And there's some other names, big, huge names that came out of Valley High School after you, like Tyler Houston, Steve Rodriguez. I think Opperman at your
number one pick.
Yeah. Chitrin, yeah. So it's kind of an endless list.
Yeah.
And then Coach moved on. And my freshman year is when he moved to Green Valley, and Green Valley had a lot of success. But what was back in your high school days, because I remember watching you in high school, you were dominating with the Braves at this point, that they always talked about your velocity, like that you could throw in the low, even to maybe mid 90s, but you felt like you didn't have to. So what do you teach? Because I know you spent the last few years coaching.
Yeah, it's really it's kind of BS. I didn't throw hard. So they said because I was winning, I could throw harder if I wanted to. I threw hard. I mean, I was throwing as hard as I could. It's like saying the slow guy's not running as hard at first as the fast guy. They're both running just as hard. Just one's going faster. So, no, I threw the ball hard. I actually threw it. I don't want to say as hard as I can, but I was pretty close to it. On every fastball I threw, I tried to cut it loose, and I felt like the harder I threw it, the faster it spun, and the more movement I would get. So I was never holding back. I was letting it fly. It just wasn't that fast, and but I knew I relied on movement and location more than velocity, and that was how I learned. I learned that. Did you know Ralph Meter? Were you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you just missed him. You missed him by a couple years, and Ralph was kind of the pitching coach of Las Vegas back in the 70s and early 80s, and he had Mike Morgan, he had my brother. Mike Greer was there, and then I was kind of the last one. He actually died my junior year.
Okay.
But Ralph taught movement. He taught movement over velocity. He said, and he taught changing speeds over velocity. Okay, and he also taught location over velocity. So, we were learning how to pitch at that age, not kind of like the way it is now. Let's see how hard we could throw. And, I think that was a big difference back then too, is, we were taught up and in, down and away. And I think nowadays guys are, what's my spin rate? How fast was it? And how can you throw harder? And, the game's changed a little bit in that, it's all about the velo now. And, but once the game starts, the pitcher that pitches the best is usually the one that's going to win, not the one that throws the hardest.
Nice. I like that. How did you prepare and how did you develop the control and the command that you had of your pitches? Like, was there a certain focus that you felt you had that was different?
Well, I don't know if I had a different focus or anything. I think, command's a lot like velo. Some guys just throw harder than others, and, some guys just locate better than others. And I think I had the ability to locate better than most people. I did work on my command every side session. I thought mechanically, it's kind of like a golf swing. If I do everything mechanically right, the ball's going to go where I want it to go. Okay, so I was, always worried about alignment and my mechanics as well. So I knew if I did those two things, I was going to have good location.
Speaking of mechanics, did you have any certain like triggers or things that you knew you wanted to repeat every single time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, lots of them, tons of them. And, they changed from day to day, especially with your changeup. Your field pitch, it's different every 5 days. And you might needed a little something mechanically different to think about, every 5 days with that pitch. But, for the most part, it's, mechanics. If you can repeat your mechanics, you have good mechanics. I think that's the hey, how's the guy's mechanics? Well, can he repeat? And if he can repeat, he has good mechanics, no matter if his arm's too high, too low, if he, doesn't stay on the rubber long enough, as long as he catches up, all those things. If you're able to repeat, you have good mechanics. And, command was something I worked on. I think one of the things I did different than most pitchers was I never had my catcher set up down the middle. You see guys throw bullpens and the catcher set up down the middle, and it's kind of like, I don't want to throw it down the middle in the game, so why am I going to practice throwing it down the middle on the side? So I always had my catcher on one side of the plate or the other with every pitch. It didn't matter if it was, slider, curve, change. They had to be on one side of the plate or the other. And I didn't practice throwing it down the middle. All my practice was done trying to hit a corner and trying to keep the ball down.
Was there a certain side of the plate that was easier for you to hit and repeat?
Arm side was easier. So, you obviously you work on your weaknesses. So I probably spent 80% of my time on my glove side of the plate, and, spent most of the time on my weaknesses and my bullpens, and, go to your strength just here and there to make sure it's still there, and then try to improve your weaknesses.
That's nice. How did that translate to when you were coaching and as a pitching coach at UNLV, starting to teach these kids? How did they respond and listen to your teaching?
Well, most of them, a few of them did respond. It takes time. It takes innings. College pitcher, you got 3 guys getting about 60, 70 innings, and everybody else is getting 20 or 30. So it's kind of harder for the bullpen guys. And, they're all about the velo. If they hit 95, they're going to get drafted. If they're throwing 91 or 92 and winning and helping our team win, they might not get drafted. So, at the same time, you have to realize you want these kids to cut it loose. You want them to get drafted. But at the same time, you still want to teach them how to pitch and how to win in case they do get drafted. I always used to tell them, hey, if you get drafted, that's great. Okay. But you're going to have, when you get to the minor leagues, you're going to have to continue to get better, and eventually you're going to have to win. And winning is what's going to get you paid down the road, not your velocity. It's being able to win a baseball game and get hitters out. And I think they kind of bought into that a little bit, because, a lot of guys get drafted, very few make it to the big leagues.
Right.
I think we all know that. So I think it's important to jumpstart their let's try to win attitude instead of let's just brain dead chuck it and hope some scouts like it and I get drafted.
A name that comes to my mind was, did you have Dean Kramer?
I didn't have Dean Kramer. I saw him when Chase was a freshman.
Okay.
So I did see him throw a couple of games. They had 3 pitchers that got drafted that year, and Dean Kramer was one of them. And I think the Dodgers took him and ended up trading him. And good arm. Yeah. He's done well too the last month. Had a couple good games in a row now. Yeah,
and he just, like what you said, he was a guy that I scouted that he certainly didn't light up the radar gun where he was like, oh my God, he wasn't touching 5s. It was more like 88 to 92, maybe touched a 3, pretty good breaking ball, changeup. There was really more question about the makeup and what his desire was to pitch, at that time. Kind of aloof, just a different personality in a way. But man, he's kind of shot up the ranks. I think he just got called up to the big leagues.
Yeah.
Led the minor leagues, I think, a year or 2 ago in strikeout.
Yeah, throwing harder now too.
Yeah, probably stronger, maybe more dedicated, whatever it is, right? That's awesome. So what was getting drafted like for you? What was that whole process like?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a big deal. Well, it was a big deal back then, but there wasn't all the hoopla. There wasn't all the rankings. There wasn't all the scout clubs you played on. I just played high school ball. And, you make your 9 or 10 starts in high school. And, back then they said, hey, you're probably going to get drafted in the first round. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Really?
I'm just a kid from Vegas, right?
Yeah. I'm 150 pounds and, I threw 90. Back then, 90 was today's 95. And, I just remember that on draft day, we had our class trip to Hawaii. And then there was no internet. there was, you got a phone call from the team that drafted you.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing live, nothing going on. And I forget what time our flight was taken off, but as I was boarding the flight to go on my class trip, the first round had just ended and I didn't get drafted. So actually our class trip was to Hawaii. So when we got to Hawaii, like 5 hours later, I remember calling my dad and saying, hey, he drafted me. He said the Cubs drafted you in the second round. So, I spent the week in Hawaii, got back to Vegas, and then flew to Pikeville, Kentucky to start rookie ball and get going. And that was Jay Bell was the first round pick, one of the first round picks that year.
Okay.
And he was in that league. Sean Abner, I think, was the first pick.
Is that Padres?
I think it was Mets.
Mets? Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think it was Mets. And so, got to face those guys right out of high school, and that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So were you always a starting pitcher right away, your whole minor league career, all the way up?
Always started. I think the only time I pitched out of the pen was when I was stinking up the joint in Chicago my first year, and they put me in the pen for a couple days before they sent me back down. And that was about it. So I got a chance to get in a few mop-up games in. Okay.
What was that like for you when you first got called up? How many years did you spend in the minor leagues, and then what was that like?
2.5 years. I got called up pretty young. I was 20 when I got called up.
Wow.
Yeah, and exciting. I mean, my first day in the big leagues was pretty cool. Went there the first day, and it was Jamie Moyer against Nolan Ryan. And those were the two starting pitchers. And
that's crazy, Nolan Ryan.
It is crazy. And the game's going on, and all of a sudden it goes extra innings, and it starts getting dark. There's no lights at Wrigley back then.
Oh, okay. Man, you're dating yourself right there.
Yeah, I know. And so we're going to resume the game tomorrow at 12 o'clock, get to the ballpark at 12 o'clock, and John Vukovic, one of the third base coach, goes, hey, you might pitch today. You be ready. And, so sure enough, the game goes a couple more innings, and they tell me to go down and warm up. And I'm warming up. There's one out. We got a man on second. I think Jody Davis was on second. And they call down the pen. They ask me if I'm ready. And I go, well, there's one out. I go, yeah, I'm ready. So they called me in to pinch run for Jody Davis.
Okay.
So came in. I ran for Jody. Didn't score. And I'm kind of sitting on the bench going, well, this is kind of stupid. Why'd they have me warm up? That just doesn't make sense. I just warm up the run? I mean,
right.
And Luke goes, hey, kid, you're in the game. And I'm like, oh, shit. I didn't even know. I grabbed my car out there. And, I think gave up a wind-blown home run to Mickey Hatcher, and we lost in extra innings.
Right, let's get him in the pen already.
Yeah, got 3 guys out, gave up a solo homer, and got a loss. Hang with
Oh, man.
Yeah, but then I started 5 days later in Cincinnati, so it was pretty cool. Pretty special that first time you get called up. As you know, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
What year was it? What year was that?
That was 86.
86. Was it 87 when they got the lights, or when was that?
88.
88. Wrigley got. I remember that.
88.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And the first one got rained out.
Was Andre Dawson there?
I believe. Geez, what year did the Hawk get there? Was he 89 or 88? He might have been there. I'm not sure. The years kind of.
Yeah.
They all run together, but God, what a special player he was. He was pretty cool getting him.
We
saw him win the MVP, and it was something pretty special. It was probably as cool as when Chipper wanted in Atlanta, just to be able to play with the guy all year and you watch him have an MVP type season. They're fun to watch.
Is that when because you've obviously had Cy Youngs and just amazing years. So when you're watching them, you're pitching every 5 days, you're watching a guy like Chipper or Andre, like, are you even impressed? Are you like, oh my God, this guy?
I think that's one of the things that really helps is if you like the game. And I like the game. I mean, especially as a starting pitcher, because I mean, honestly, what are we out there? Hour every 5 days, hour and a half? I mean, we're not out there very long. I mean, and we're sitting on the bench and, trying to kill time. And if you can actually enjoy watching your teammates play and the other teams play. I think it just makes it better. And, you know, I was lucky enough to enjoy that. I enjoyed watching the games.
What did you, on that note, take from, if you're pitching every 5 days, you got 4 days in between there. I'm pretty sure, tell us your routine and how you would go about watching and analyzing the game, and maybe the hitters.
You know, I was going to pitch the way I knew how to pitch.
Okay.
So, you know, there wasn't a lot of, you know, Rick Sutcliffe does this, so I'm going to try that, or you know, then in Atlanta, well, Smoltzy's doing this, let me try to mimic that. I knew who I was as a pitcher, so I wasn't going to deviate from that. And you know, the biggest things, like stupid things I would look for, like I would look like on bunt plays, you know, because we bunted a lot, and you know, first and second, I always used to try to watch the shortstop to see if he did anything on the wheel play, so I knew to swing, you know,
Right.
Running to defense. So, you know, just things like that. You'd look for, you know, does the guy get a little lower when he's going to steal second? Does he open up his front foot? You might watch the base stealers. You might watch if guys that bunted, if they did anything different before they bunted, so you can, you know, cheat one way or the other, just get a little jump on the bunt if they do get it down. Just things like that. But, you know, for the most part, the preparation was all done in the video room. If I was facing you, let's say, I would put in your last 30 at-bats against right-handed pitchers.
Okay.
You know, once the video got good. Before then, you had the VHS, and you had to rewind, and you only had your game. So, but that's what I would do. You know, my preparation was video, and I usually went last 30 at-bats against right-handed pitchers. So I would watch, you know, your at-bats in, you know, New York, Montreal, and then we played you. So I would, you know, kind of get a feel and, you know, just see if there were certain pitches that you continued to fly out to center field on, and, you know, if there were ones you hit, you know, the ones that went in the gap. So, you know, those were kind of the things I looked for.
Did you rely on like advanced scattering reports, or did you rely on just your eyes?
I trusted myself. I trusted my own eyes. The advanced scouting reports, they came to be the same thing every time for me. It's almost like he's a first ball, fastball hitter. You know, will chase up with 2 strikes, or might chase down with 2 strikes. They were pretty generalized.
Okay.
You know, I wanted to know, if I throw my fastball here, is he going to hit a home run? And if the answer was no, then that's where I tried to throw it. I tried to keep the ball in front of the outfield. I tried to keep the ball in the park, and I let the hitter get himself out. I mean, very rarely did I go for a strikeout. I mean, you can't strike anybody out until you get 2 strikes. You know what I mean? So for me, strike 1 and 2 was, if I throw this pitch and he hits it, it's the single the worst I'm going to be. And that's the pitch I threw. It was never a swing and miss. I'm going to make him miss this pitch on a 1-1 count. Okay. I would try to throw a strike and keep it in front of the outfield. And if I got to 2 strikes, okay, if I paint you away, is he going to take it, or do I need to throw a change up and let him swing over?
Okay.
So,
That's interesting, because it sounds to me like you probably played with, when I'm dealing with younger athletes and working in particular pitchers, when they're struggling, they tend to do what we call primal pitching, is I'm going to just throw it harder and harder, and just try to hold the spot.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were, did you ever get to that point at all?
I was there my first year, and you learn that it doesn't work. I mean, if you want to fail, that's a good way to fail. Just rear back, brain dead, chuck it. It worked in high school and college for most guys.
Right.
As they move up, it doesn't quite work as well. You know, I was guilty of that my first couple years, and it took me till I was about 22 or 3 to trust my location. I think it's easy to trust your velocity. It's hard to trust your location. And as soon as you understand that my fastball is good enough, or my breaking ball is good enough, all I have to do is locate it. I think that's when you get over the hump and you start turning into a pitcher, and, you know, instead of a brain dead chucker.
Right. Okay. So you took a lot of pride. I've been to your house a couple times, and you showed me your trophy room, and I think you have 18 Gold Gloves? Is that right?
Yeah.
18 gold gloves. So you take me into your trophy room. I'm just looking around at, you get the amazing, like, kind of portraits, just trophies everywhere, and then just lined up one after the other is gold gloves. Tell us about your approach with fielding and how that worked for you.
Well, I worked on it. It's important. I figured if I could make 3 plays a game and get 30 starts, that's 90 outs. Okay. So you got 90 free outs a year. What's that do to your ERA? Okay. You go up there, you got 90 scoreless outs in there once the season's over. So I kind of looked at it that way, we all want to get paid. We all want to have good years. We want to win a World Series. We want to have a good ERA. We want to win 20 games. And, fielding is a big part of that. I always felt like if I can do something where I don't have to throw a fastball down and away or make a good slider, if I could field a bunt, get the ball to the shortstop on a comebacker, without him having to reach for it or whatever so he can turn it. If I could field my position and do things correctly, it's just going to increase my chances to have success. So I enjoyed fielding. I enjoyed practicing fielding. And, it's important.
That's hard to find, don't you think, with a lot of pitchers?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I got, or I had, 15, 20 pitchers at UNLV, and I think really about 4 or 5 enjoyed being out there during PFPs, and 15 of them hated it. So, it helps to like what you're doing. Again, you gotta like what you're doing, and if you do, you're probably going to be good at it.
What did you sense back as we get back to the college part? Did you certainly notice different types of work ethics?
Oh, absolutely. And again, there's a huge difference between a college kid trying to get a degree and using baseball for that, and then you have like minor league players that, okay, this is my living, I'm all in. And, I found that coaching through the minor leagues, you have to be careful what you say because they're going to try it. They're going to do it. So, you got to make sure that, you got to believe in what you're saying to these guys. And, college in one ear and out the other for the most part. I think, if you told them something, stay on the rubber longer, or let's have a stiff wrist when you take the ball out of your glove on your changeup, you'd have to tell them again in 3 days. Whereas if you tell the minor leaguers or the pros those things, then you only have to tell them once, and they'll figure out if it's going to work for them or not.
Because they might go home, and because you've done a lot of that type of stuff in teaching, going through, and kind of like a roving minor league type person, right? You'll explain how that worked for you when you were doing that.
Well, I enjoyed it. I like baseball, and I like retirement, and I was allowed to do it part-time, and I enjoyed spring training. Would do the spring trainings and then make a couple trips once the season started with the Cubs, and then I spent 4 or 5 years in Texas with my brother, and I did a year in LA with the Dodgers. And keeps you in the game, makes retirement, gives you something to get up for every now and then,
Yeah, absolutely.
I enjoyed it, and it worked out good. I found I learned a lot from all the other pitching coaches. I was very fortunate to be around lots of pitching coaches, and you can steal little bits and pieces from these guys. And then like when I had my guys at UNLV, I found myself kind of sharing with the 7 or 8 pitching coaches I've been around the last 5 or 6 years, and the ones also that I had as a player. So it was you can get a lot of little nuggets in your toolkit when you start talking to a bunch of coaches.
Absolutely. Is there a thought came to my mind, and kind of going back to your mechanics? Are there any, you say, red flag that you see in mechanics or arm action that?
Sorry about that. As far as red flags go, here's the thing. The most important part of the delivery is probably the last 2 feet. Okay. So whatever they're doing from here to here, okay, that's the most important thing. And then, you kind of look for things before that happens. And then, that's where you see the red flags. And, you just kind of watch and see how their arm works. I think, are they using their legs properly? I think, are they getting on top of the ball? Are they getting around the ball? Are they in a proper throwing position to get to the last 2 feet? And, as far as like watching their shoulders and see how they take the ball out of their hand, a lot of times if you see a nice circle back here and it's short and nice and fluid, you're not worried about it. But when you see them starting to reach way in the back, you start to worry a little bit. So,
Okay.
I think most of it you can kind of see by how they take it out of their glove. And if they're taking it out in a pretty good position, then I think they're going to be okay.
Okay.
And you have to keep in mind too that, it's been said there's 2 types of pitchers. There's pitchers that have had surgery and there's pitchers that are going to have surgery.
So it's going to happen.
So there's red flags for everybody. I mean, look, Verlander been pitching forever. Okay. And, just had that happen to him. And, you saw Smoltz great for 10 years and, had the elbow and,
yeah,
it happens. You just hope it's an elbow and not a shoulder when it goes.
So did you happen to have a surgery as well?
You know what? I didn't. I was pretty fortunate.
Wow.
I was pretty fortunate. My arm was pretty good. Elbow hurt a little bit younger in my career, but literally the last 10 years, I learned how to take better care of my arm and was fine.
What was your routine after you pitched and before you pitched? Did you do the jobs and all that type of stuff?
Did the jobs every day. Every day. I was pretty fortunate. Do you know who Keith Clevin is?
Oh yeah.
Him, don't you?
Yeah.
Physical therapist, sports guy, understood speed and athletes. And I was fortunate to actually work for him in high school. So, I mean, I joke I was his head custodian, but I was the only one that came in and cleaned up the offices, when they all left at 6 o'clock. But he actually taught me back then how to take care of my shoulder. So I was doing the Job exercises back then, and they had the Cybex machines, the resistance that you could get on, and I was doing a lot of exercises on the Cybex machines for my shoulder and elbow. So I was pretty fortunate back then. I learned at an early age how to take care of my arm properly, and I learned from the best. I mean, in my opinion, he was the best in the country. I mean, he knew all sports. He did all athletes. He did, Tiger went to him. Tiger could have picked whoever he went to in the world, and Tiger went to him. So, I mean, he's a pretty special guy. And he did pass away short time ago, and definitely miss him. And very huge, a lot of help along the way. And he was right there at the top of the list.
Yeah, that's awesome. Started that job early and little sweeping floors, listening for some advice and
working out and getting paid. Yeah, it was great. But mostly, I took care of my arm. That's the one, I didn't run a lot, but I ran enough.
Okay.
I tried to throw only when I had to. I never tried to save my bullets for the 5th day. But I did take care of my shoulder. That's the one thing I did. I was pretty good about doing my shoulder exercises every day. If I didn't feel like running one day, then I probably wouldn't, but I still did my shoulder exercises. I knew it was important to stay healthy and, be fresh for that 5th day.
That's awesome. How did you go about, year to year, you're having these incredible years? How did you go about, did you actually set goals for yourself each year, or did you just go?
You always want to win 20 games, always wanted to win the Cy Young. Okay. Always wanted to help your team get a shot at postseason. Obviously wanted to win the World Series. The goals were always very high, but the main goal for me was to win the day, to try to get better every time I went to the ballpark. And it just had to be something, it had to be something. It had to be, usually it was about a hitter or a base runner or something on defense, I think just had the attitude to try to get better every time I walked into the ballpark and find out how good I can be. When I was in AAA, Billy Connors asked me, "You ever wonder how good you can be?" And I said, "No." And
Why would I do that?
he goes, you should try to find out. And I go, "How do I do that?" He goes, "You just go and try to find out how good you can be." So, that's something that kind of stuck with me. And, I always tried to find the answer to that question. So, that was my way to motivate myself. And we all know it's a long season. And, I think I stayed pretty good even through the dog days of trying to get better that day.
That's great. How did you approach, maybe you've answered a little bit through some of your answers so far, but how did you approach the mental game?
It really clicked to me when I only try to control the things that I can control. Okay. And to even simplify it even more, it was, what do I throw and how do I throw it? Okay. So it was pitch selection, and then what do I have to do mechanically to execute the pitch? And, luckily it was easier back then. There wasn't a lot of media. There wasn't, 25 apps you can click on and watch your last game in 30 seconds and all that, so, you just block out everything, put on your crash helmet, not your sponge. You don't listen and really didn't care what people thought.
Yeah.
Just cared about trying to get better and, listen to my coaches, tried their advice. I mean, anytime a coach suggested something to me, I always tried it. And, hey, you might be right. I better try it. It might make me better. So just pretty focused on trying to get better and just worrying about the things that I can control. You can't control, the shortstop freaking having it go through his legs on a perfect double play ball and you get a loss. Didn't bother me one bit, never bothered me. Things out of my control, if they didn't go our team's way, never bothered me.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a big one. Talking to kids, they get so wrapped up in that error that the shortstop made or the pass ball that the catcher should have blocked.
Yeah, or the team didn't score for me. I got beat 2-1 or 1-0.
Yeah. What do I got to do? Throw a no-hitter every time to win? Right.
Yeah. I mean, I actually felt better losing 2-1 sometimes and winning 7-6, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I know that sucks for the team and all that, but
yeah,
I was about, trying to be good, and I didn't need the box score to dictate that. Okay. I knew if it was good or not. I didn't need the box score to tell me if I did good or not.
Yeah, that's what I've always sensed with you. Like, you've always known and trusted yourself on, I don't need somebody else's opinion or validation to know how good I am. Right. And do you feel like that took a long time to get there?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I think that's something I started learning my third or fourth year. I had my shrink. I had Harvey Dorfman.
Yeah. Okay.
He was pretty big in the game back then in the 90s, and worked with Oakland and Miami, and Scott had him on staff at his place. So,
yeah, and that's what I say. Like, one of my biggest regrets is knowing that was actually available. Harvey Dorfman, I got the book sitting right here on my shit. He wrote The Mental Game of Baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I got it for all the kids at UNLV. I think maybe only 2 of them read it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the difference. And I'm working with a team right now too, and we're going through Heads Up Baseball. It's actually really cool. We're separating it to like a chapter each week, and then when the players are discussing it, we're having conversation, and then I do one-on-ones with them to kind of actually go through what are they going through individually, and it's really cool to see them start to open up and be like, yeah, I'm struggling here a little bit. What can you help me in this area? So that's really cool.
Yeah.
What was, so I want to point that out. Like, we're talking to Greg Maddux here, who spoke to a mental skills coach in the late 80s, early 90s. Was it your whole career? Or?
Yeah. I mean, 88, I believe, 89, sometime in there.
Yeah. And was that just for those that year or two, or was it your whole career?
Whole career, but mostly, scuffling, not performing well on the field, And physically, I was fine. I mean, felt great. Could throw it as hard as I could, and it didn't hurt. You know,
That's amazing.
the ball was good. Everything was good, but mentally, I was making mistakes. I wasn't thinking correctly. I had my sponge on, not my crash helmet. You know, I was hearing things. I was being coached by too many teammates. I had, you know, at least they liked me enough to try to help me, you know.
Right.
But, you know, you got 3 different veteran pitchers telling you 3 different things, and then you have your pitching coach telling you as well. And, you know, just a little confused. I wasn't organized, and I wasn't set up for success. Mentally, I wasn't there. So I had to learn how to prepare better, learn how to trust my stuff, learn how to trust my location, and, you know, understand why I was good and figure out who I am as a pitcher. And then, you know, things started to.
Yeah. And you're talking, you were in the big leagues, a few years in the big league until you realized who you were.
Yeah. Oh, it takes time. Yeah. It takes, you know, they say it takes 400 or 500 innings before you start to figure things out. So, and I was at that point.
Okay. That's awesome, man. I think that's great. Have you transferred that to, because now you're retired, you've been playing golf. How do you transfer that to the golf game?
I don't. I wish I could. Totally different game. Totally different game. You know, I have been taking lessons for the first time.
Really?
Yeah, like literally in California this summer, I started taking lessons. And
because you're like a scratch golfer. You're trying to get it, not so much.
That's the thing. I went from like a 3 to a 7, and I was unconsciously incompetent. I was so bad and had no idea why I was bad that I need a coach. It just got to the point where I know I'm going to play golf the rest of my life as long as I can. And I need to start to understand the mechanics of the golf swing better and understand what kind of golfer I am. And, you know, I mean, the only thing really is I enjoy the game. I don't really enjoy practicing it, and that's why I'm not good at it. You know,
you just play and just go and have fun.
Just play, and you know, I should practice. I can't complain about being bad because I don't practice. So it's, you know, it's my own fault.
Yeah, well, we had that. We had quite I would say almost a full year of the year I was coaching at Gorman. Then I had your son Chase. I coached him during it was, I guess, Legion or Tommy Mac, whatever it was at that time. And you were helping out, so you took me out a bunch of times golfing. Yeah. It was a blast. We had our Carl's Jr. right by your old house. Right. Just good times. So that's interesting. So what are you actually working on your swing? Which part of that are you trying to?
Everything. I'm just real loose and sloppy at the top, and I'm trying to tighten it up at the top for the most part. You know, I think I'm not gripping the club properly or setting it in the right spot. So I'm trying to learn how to set the club correctly before I start to swing.
I got you. So you're not going to go to a bunch of YouTube videos for that?
I mean, I'll watch chipping videos and stuff. You never know. You might find something. But, you know, the biggest thing is you got to practice. You got to work on your short game. And, you know, with the weather being as hot as it is, by the time you're done playing, you're not going to go practice.
Oh, yeah. You're done. Yeah. It's lunchtime. You're tired, right?
Yeah, you're kind of hungry. And,
you
know, I'm okay being a 4 or 5 handicap. That's fine.
Yeah. Perfect.
For the game, and I'm not going to punish my body to hit 10,000 golf balls.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Man, this has been incredible. So I wanted to do something with you, and I wanted to, you know, I got your permission beforehand to go through. When I started, just, you know, I knew a lot about you going into this, and I went through some articles, and I'm like, there's some funny stories out there that you're saying that could possibly be fake news. So, right. So I'm gonna throw some stories out to you. If you want to elaborate on each one,
all right.
You say true, false, fake news, whatever you want to say.
Okay. All right.
Here's the first one. And this could be a different version, but you used to pee on rookies' legs in the shower.
Only if they peed on me first. I never drew first blood, but I got even.
All right, you got even.
False. That's false.
That's false. Okay. All right. There is there was a story about some type of chili. They used to put stuff in chili. Any
Oh, in San Francisco, the chili?
something to
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe.
no, I didn't. No, nothing like that. No, here's what we did in San Francisco. San Francisco was famous for its chili. Do you remember Harvey? How's your knee? He was the clubby there, the visiting clubby in San Francisco. But he would make this big pot of chili, and it was good. Everybody liked the chili,
Okay.
but he never cleaned it. So he would just dump more chili on top of the old chili and stir it up. And so what we did is we said, he never cleans it. How do we know? So on getaway day, we put a golf ball underneath the chili.
Okay.
And then somebody knew somebody on the next team coming in and say, hey, see if there's a golf ball in the chili. And of course I got blamed for it. But no, I never did anything to the chili.
Okay. All right. I read once where you had a joke where you used to flick boogers up on top of the ceiling where reporters would always stand and do their reporting.
Oh, no.
No.
No. But you could hawk loogies on the top of the dugout and then move and see if it drips on the guy next to you, but never to the reporters. Because, you know, the rule is you can mess with baseball stuff, but you can't mess with like personal stuff.
Right.
You know? So,
right.
You know.
So what about the guys that go in and like cut up their suits or their street clothes?
Yeah,
Is that crossing the line?
Well, it's crossing the line, but at the same time, the guy goes and buys him a new suit the next day, right?
You got to replace it at least, right?
You get a new suit out of it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. This one's an interesting one. That you crapped on top of a birthday cake.
No, not true.
That's fake news.
Yep, never happened.
See, I even heard it went as deep as
I will say
chocolate cake, and you messed with that and put it in a chocolate cake.
No, that was I heard a couple guys before me doing that. I only had one teammate that ever crapped on anything, and it was a paper plate, and he put it next to the spread in Montreal because he said the spread was shit. So he's and I won't tell you who he was, but he was a pitcher.
All right, of course.
He was.
Of course he was. Okay. There's a story going that you used to pee on the bucket of sanitary socks.
No.
No?
No.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you do that to your teammates? They got to put on wet socks.
Oh my God.
I wore the 2-in-1, so I was okay with it, but I didn't. Yeah, no, wasn't me.
Okay. There's a story that talked about GM for the Padres. I believe it was Kevin Towers, maybe Towers or somebody else at the time, saying that, hey, you need to set a better example. We need you to get out and just get in better shape. And then your response to that was, okay, I'm going to get early to the field, the treadmill, and pull up the treadmill to where everybody walks in, get butt naked, and just start running on the treadmill.
Nope.
No.
Never happened.
This is a lot of fake news going on.
I'm telling you, it's all this stuff going on, and it's like, okay. Again, don't care. Again, it
right.
goes back to I'm not okay, whatever.
Okay.
No.
And I got I think one more, well maybe two more. One was you talked about hawking loogies. That when Chipper Jones got his first hit, they threw the ball in, and he went to get it, and you hawked a loogie on it, and then gave it back.
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, we would mess with it. What if I did do it? It wasn't the ball he got the hit on. It was a different ball.
Okay.
Because you know how the guy would get his first hit, and you'd get the ball and write the wrong name on there or something. Yeah,
absolutely.
Do that.
Okay.
We used to do
this.
But me and Gracie did have fun. What we did? Yeah. We always had a mom joke every time we had a 3-1 put out over at first.
A mom joke, okay.
Yeah, right. We would just like have a little mom joke for one another.
All right.
Making the U-turn back to the mound. But that was kind of fun.
So there's a lot of fake news going on.
It's a lot of Yeah.
What are some of the funny stories that you would be willing to share that did happen that you'd be open to?
Wow. They're all a little kind of vulgar, but You know, just,
we can keep it PG-13, you know.
yeah, I mean, you know, you know, uh, I got one that was kind of fun, and I didn't even do it. It was Trevor Hoffman used to take a bite out of all the donuts. He'd come in and take a bite out of every donut every morning and kind of ruin the donuts for everybody else. So it was Michael Barrett actually got the cream-filled one and sucked all the cream out and put mustard in the middle and got a straw and got it in there. And he sat there and waited for Trevor to walk in and take the bites out of the donuts. And, you know, about a half hour later, he showed up and got a mouthful of mustard. That was pretty good. That was one of the better ones.
That is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
did you guys ever, well, I mean, you played in Chicago. There's the one about that one that happened for me is when I got called up to Pittsburgh, and Chris Benson was already there at the time, and a couple guys that were like a year or two in, and they would take us to, I couldn't even tell you what the location is, but there's a big bowl, and it's got, you have to climb up on the bowl and spray paint the balls of the bowl.
oh,
right?
yeah.
The balls are huge, right?
Yeah.
We had to spray paint them yellow for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, your team colors.
Yeah, did you ever hear about that? People doing that?
You know, there was also a horse right there when you come off Lakeshore Drive in Waveland. And there was a horse that you'd see his nuts would be, we were playing, you know, you guys, it'd be yellow. And if, you know, playing the A's, it'd be green. So
right. Yeah.
We saw that a lot.
Yeah. Well, and then, so that was, and I was 21 at the time, going into Chicago for the first time, big city. Cops were everywhere, right? And you're like, dude, this is crazy, right? And then the great part about that was you sprayed it, got down, got in a cabin, then got out of there, and you just think that you're alive. And then the next day, there's like 3 cops that show up, right? And they're like, and Lloyd McClendon was our manager at the time, and he's like, you know, Hermansen, Ramirez, you know, Mike Garcia, like lined us all up, and then they called us out. They're like, we got you guys on tape for spray painting these Bulls balls. So the whole scene is set up to where they're gonna arrest you and take you, and you can't play in the game today.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know they went that far. We saw a couple take arrest in spring training.
Yeah.
And the guys would come in and arrest somebody, and everyone would have a laugh. But yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, Greg, man, this has been awesome. A lot of great info and wisdom from you, one of the greatest pitchers ever. Certainly have appreciated our friendship over the years, and how you've given back to the Vegas community. You know, almost I still are involved in some of the scout teams here, and we have a heavy presence with Bishop Gorman at times, and it seems like everybody has gone through you at some point to get help, advice, all types of things. So coming from me and everybody else, I really appreciate your help.
Absolutely.
And all that.
Yeah. I had a lot of help coming up myself, so, you know, you got to pay it back.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
All right. Look forward to it. All right. Good seeing you, Chad. All right, man.
Okay. We'll see you. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Greg Maddux. It doesn't get any better than that, right? A Hall of Famer. Man, he's got a lot of wisdom. We probably didn't even get into really a lot of what he can talk about if you had to sit down and talk with him for a while. So I wanted to give that to you and just give an experience of what that's like, and just the knowledge that he has of pitching, the wisdom that he provides for us. So hopefully you got something out of that. If you're a parent, make sure you share that with your kid. And if you're a kid, make sure you take it to heart, man. That's Greg Maddux, Hall of Famer, one of the best at this game that will ever be. So hopefully you take that to heart. On the side note, I want to make sure you guys are still aware that I'm doing one-on-one coaching. I am teaching kids one-on-one about the mental game, going through it individually with them. I'm also doing group calls every Sunday night at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I share a lot of the same information I do in one-on-one calls, but in the group call, it's a little bit more open information, and we have a lot of dialogue and discussion about the mental game and what these individuals are going through, and these players are helping each other out along the way. So take a look at that in the show notes, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.